Today, the parachutes are falling down while I talk up 6 canceled G.I. Joe figure redecos from all the way back in 2003. On March 12, 2003, Hasbro embraced collectors across all of their brands by hosting their first ever fan press event. Not only did they showcase items shown 1 month beforehand at Toy Fair, but they also unveiled several new items that catered to longtime fans, including fans of 3 3/4-inch G.I. Joe. This included 3 different G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Spy Troops figure sets, the Toys R Us exclusive Python Patrol 6-pack, the Internet exclusive Cobra Bat Troop Builder 6-pack, and a Walmart exclusive figure 2-pack assortment designed to include a working parachute in each pack. Oddly, one of the planned figures was not shown, but the 2 packs would have included Duke vs. Alley Viper, Snake Eyes vs. Storm Shadow, who was not shown, and Lowlight vs. maybe Hiss Driver? There still exists a bit of a mystery here because this figure may have instead been packaged as Rip It, the Cobra character first released in 2000 using most of the tooling of the original Hiss Driver. With production samples of the Python Patrol and Bat 6 packs in hand for the March event, it was no surprise when collectors had them in hand only a few months later. But as the year moved on, the only Walmart parachute figures that surfaced were leaked via eBay auctions and through private sellers from China. In June of 2003, Fun Publications hosted the International G.I. Joe Collectors Convention in San Francisco, California, and word quickly spread that these sets had been canceled. Word of mouth also included the fact that although the planned parachutes were very similar in form and function to vintage Sky Patrol, there was a complication with them passing updated safety testing standards. This complication was further evidenced by the absence of such a parachute in the Wave 8 Halo Jumper vs. Televiper 2-pack. Hasbro press photos revealed that this set was to include the feature, as hinted by a vestigial loop on Halo Jumper's backpack. In September 2003, Walmart shoppers began to find G.I. Joe bonus packs, which were existing toys joined together in an additional blister package for roughly $10. Now this is where things get really interesting, and it's important to remember that on occasion mistakes do happen in production. And one lucky G.I. Joe fan actually found a Snake Eyes vs. Storm Shadow 2-pack carded as a Walmart bonus set. And thanks to Stephen Marchitelli, we have some new photos of that set that we can show you. While the use of a Sergeant Hacker vs. Scalpel insert may have been a mistake, it is also very possible that these figures were knowingly sealed with this tag, as it is common for packaged test samples to use FEP figures along with existing card backs simply to check function without needing specific art. The mistake here isn't that these figures were carded, it is that they were then also put in a bonus set and shipped to retail. And they aren't just in a package. The bubble tray behind the figures is specific to these figures and their accessories, including the space for the Mylar chute. It isn't hard to imagine that these were carded as a part of the development process, and a simple mistake could have put them in the wrong place. The Hacker and Scalpel tag could have even helped them remain undetected, like proper spy troops. Then in December 2003, Desert vs. Urban themed sets started to show up at retail. Though part of the 2004 Valor vs. Venom collection, fans started to speculate that these 3 2-packs had replaced the parachute figures. In response to a January Q&A at Yojo.com, Hasbro indicated that these packs were exclusive to Walmart. We still don't actually know if the Desert vs. Urban sets were a replacement for the parachute figures, or if they had already been planned and were just coming out. Nonetheless, the cancellation of the parachute figures was all but confirmed. And as the years rolled on, more and more of these figures made it onto the market and into the hands of collectors. But what happened to the parachutes? I should back up a bit to note that the G.I. Joe Collectors Club was actually already using a parachute of this type. It was a standard practice for each G.I. Joe convention to start with a parachute drop that sort of served as an opening ceremony. I got to drop the Cobra Stealth Paratroopers in 2012, and it was a great time. I don't think there will be many opportunities in my lifetime to drop figures off of a tall building, let alone with so many other people doing it at the same time. It really is a spectacle, and I'm sad that it isn't something that is still happening today. But the first 3 3/4-inch figures that were a part of this event was Dusty in 2002. You can see that the Dusty parachutes were sponsored by Toys R Us. This sponsorship continued when the club put a face to a name by dropping Air Vipers in 2003. If you hadn't noticed, Air Vipers are name-dropped on file cards for AVAC as well as Strato Viper, but were not depicted until the club redecoed Vapor that year. In fact, Larry Hama has mentioned that AVAC is an acronym for Air Viper Advanced Class. While that isn't on the original AVAC file card, it does appear on later versions. So with the Air Vipers dropping in 2003, it was a bit of a surprise that the Walmart figures were not showing up. And then the complications seemed to continue, because in 2004 there was no parachute drop. Thankfully, Bullet Man races filled in, and the convention properly commenced. Finally in 2005, parachutes returned as Jungle Vipers fell from the convention sky, this time without the Toys R Us sponsorship, and now simply with a G.I.Joe logo. Strangely, the logo in use was the 1960s inspired one that appeared on packages and frequently on toys throughout 2003. Even though the main line had mostly gone back to the logo with stars at the right of the 3 bars in 2004, the 2005 convention figures used the 2003 logo. I should also point out that while the 2023 Halo Jumper press photos show the version of the Joe logo with the 3 stars on the right, everything in the photo is hand-painted, and the logo may have changed to the 60s inspired one in order to fall in with the line plan at the time. Could it be that the convention figures were using parachutes made for either Halo Jumper or for Walmart? I can't be sure, but it would also explain why the club was using parachutes with a G.I. Joe logo for so many Cobra characters. So I would bet that this is what the parachute 2-packs would have included if they had been released. The official G.I. Joe Club had enough parachutes with this logo to use them for parachute drop figures from 2005 all the way to 2014, with just a few exceptions. Now let's take a look at some of the samples of the cancelled Walmart parachute figures. First up, Snake Eyes vs. Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow helps to make what was going to be included in each set a little more clear. No, not every figure would have included a parachute. In fact, I believe each 2-pack would have only included one. Even if there is some unseen Cobra parachute pack out there, Storm Shadow wouldn't be able to use it because he is a reuse of the Ninja Force tooling. There is no hole to attach a backpack to the figure. 2 different types of Storm Shadow samples have been found. A light blue one, and a dark blue one that also has a Cobra logo on the left arm, which was the type that was found carded. The Snake Eyes shown at the press event was simply the BJ's exclusive recolor, standing in for what may not yet have been determined at the time. Here is the BJ's figure next to an FEP for the Walmart set, as well as other figures for the sake of clarity. The blue plastic used on the elbows of Snake Eyes is similar to the plastic of the light blue Storm Shadow. Next up, Duke vs. Alley Viper. The Duke shown at the press event varies significantly from the samples that have been found. I can't rule out that it may have also been a placeholder. It was clearly painted by hand and is quite similar to the deco released in 2000, so it's possible that in a rush they reused the 2000 prototype. The green details such as the belt don't match the EPs, nor the 2000 figure, so it's hard to say. But it seems that at some point this design shifted further away from the 2000 colors and closer to the tan shirt and green pants familiar with Duke since 1983. You can see this in the different FEPs found, especially since the hair was later changed to blonde. Alley Viper also saw some changes between the hand-painted figure and EP samples. The more commonly found FEP is made of light blue plastic and has dark blue camouflage, but there is a second, harder to find sample that is made of dark blue plastic and has black camo. Both have Cobra logos tampographed in black on both of their arms. Finally, we have Lowlight vs. Rip It. Lowlight was most definitely the most lamented cancellation among collectors at the time, since this sculpt had not been used yet since the line restarted. The plan for the goggles changed from red to brown, and some samples are found with brown gloves, like the painted one at the press event, while others have been found with blue gloves. Many of those with brown gloves have a white unpainted test shot head, and a sample with a painted head and brown gloves seems harder to find. In 2008, the club responded to the demand for a new Lowlight by releasing an entirely new deco in a SWAT 3-pack with long arm and shock blast. And here is Rip It. Yes, I'm settling on calling this figure Rip It, because the previous His Driver was Rip It, the convention one in 2007 was Rip It, and this one was an individual figure, not a driver. I think it would have been weird at the time for kids to buy a figure named Driver that didn't come with a vehicle, especially when they could have just used the name that they had already been using. And the press event didn't individually label any of the characters. The figure shown in Rhode Island had a gold chest, and I assume a Cobra logo was planned to be added. 2 different FEP samples have been found, a light blue one, and a dark blue one that also has a Cobra logo on the left arm, which is quite similar to the two Storm Shadows. Because Alley Viper is also available in light and dark blue, this means that all three Cobra figures can be found in both ways. It may be noteworthy to mention that there was not a sub-team name attached to the Walmart exclusive parachute figures. Although the parachutes function similarly to Sky Patrol, that sub-team name was not on the press event label. But the consistency of the parachutes still helps the Joes come across as a set, and the three Cobras are cohesive through the use of the same blue. I should also point out that the exact accessory loadout that would have been released is still uncertain. With Steven's photos, we can see what was packed with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, but the reused Jinx backpack that the parachute ties onto is hidden under the folded chute, so we can't be certain of its color. However, prior to that set surfacing, sellers from China on eBay were already pairing those figures with those accessories along with a silver Jinx backpack for Snake Eyes, just like what was shown at the Hasbro press event. The packaged figures showing up after the eBay auctions helps to substantiate what accessories sellers were including with the other characters. And because 2 packs at the time didn't clearly divide all of the accessories with one figure or the other, it could be debated what accessories go with each character within each pack. Of the many EP samples that were available on the secondary market during this era of G.I. Joe, the Walmart parachute figures are one of the most unique sets. Which figure of this set do you like the best, and how do you think this set measures up to the released 6-packs of the time? I know for me, when I was putting this together, I realized that if we had gotten this one, it would have been the last use of the 1989 Snake Eyes mold, and so I was extra sad that this didn't come out. But thanks again for watching, and have a good one.
Thanks for watching this episode of Articulated Points. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'd appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about some of the toys featured in this episode, or want to follow us on social media, links are in the description below this video.